And we are going.
Alrighty then. Hey everybody.
Hello, hello.
I came up with a sketch for like a sketch comedy thing the other day,
Okay.
which was a recovery, like a support group for people whose personalities and lives were ruined by watching Jim Carrey movies.
Okay, that's very specific.
So I just said alrighty then, and I'm like, oh no, I'm backsliding. I'm 8 steps into the 12-step program of eliminating Jim Carrey from my personality.
You think you're cured, and then you're like, all right, and good afternoon, good evening. If I don't see you again, good night.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't do the
it.
Truman Show thing.
What is it? Oh yeah, good afternoon,
Good morning,
evening, good night.
If I don't see you again, good afternoon and good night, or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was a good one. Yeah, and then he goes, "Oh my God, put me in, coach." It's just, it's really Ace Ventura. I mean, he's not so obnoxious in other movies. It's really just Ace Ventura. Anyways.
The Mask as well, but
Oh yeah, The Mask too. Yeah, he's done a lot like that. When I was a kid, my dad took me and my friend Joey to the Orpheum Theater, which is like this old, ornate, beautiful, vintage theater in Madison, Wisconsin. And we watched Ace Ventura, and it's the only time I've ever been to that theater. And it was like because it was the only time I've ever been there, and it was this old thing right downtown. Usually we go to the mall, and it was just this commercial, place. But my dad took us this like downtown beautiful thing. It just left a deep impression on me.
nice.
And I walked out of there just being like, can I have some banaka? Like I was just like lost it.
You were like, that is cinema.
I was like, my dad does not know what he has just done.
Man
He has
talked with
ruined-
his butt. A+ cinema score.
Sign me up.
Rotten Tomatoes,
From now
100% perfect.
I cannot wait for Ace Ventura 2 to come out. Like a glove. I mean, it's just endless.
Have you
joy.
seen that movie recently? I don't know that does it hold up? It feels like there's a huge
Not
part
recently,
at the end that
not
would
recently. Oh, the first one. Yeah, there's an anti-trans.
That would really have a
There's
problem
an
now.
anti-trans thing that doesn't age at all. But the Ace Ventura 2, I think, ages just fine.
When Nature Calls, of course.
Yes. I think, actually one part of Ace Ventura 2 I consistently think of, and for me, I draw deep spiritual power from.
What is
so
that?
at the very beginning, he's climbing a cliff face. Do you remember this?
I don't.
Okay, so he's climbing this
I
cliff
think I was
face.
out by this point.
Yeah, he's climbing his cliff face, and this helicopter pulls up, and it's insane because you can't yell from a helicopter, but he yells from a helicopter, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." And Ace Ventura looks back at him, whips his head back, and he says, "If you were me, then I'd be you, and I'd use your body to get to the top." And at the top is like some bird that he's catching to like return to. He's
Okay.
pet
Sure.
detective. Anyways, I just think that a lot. I think that phrase a lot because of like, when you're doing something hard, like making new ideas come into the world, which is what I do every day. This podcast is just one way that I have an outlet
Right.
for all the ideas that basically I'm not going to do. That's basically what this podcast is. It's all the ideas I'm not going to do because I'm working on really important ones that I am going to do. And when you do that, nobody's interested. Nobody wants new ideas. No one likes new ideas.
Well,
People
that can't be
except
true,
for a few
'cause
people.
That's our podcast.
Yeah, our audience likes it, but most people are kind of freaked out by new ideas. They're kind of they're like
they're uncomfortable,
and
right?
they just
Yeah.
kind of leave them. I'll just wait for that to germinate. I'll wait. Most people are kind of, I'll wait for that to germinate.
Sure.
But a few people grab that new idea and put it into the world. Creators, poets. People create things. Anyway, so you have to be very relentless to do it, and so I like that. If you were me, then I'd be you, and I'd use your body to get to the top.
Did you just trick me to get the microphones out so that you could do a half hour of
No.
Jim Carrey?
No. We have a solution. Okay, here's the solution. This is a solution. Okay. It's a VR video game.
I like VR.
VR
Okay.
is cool. VR video game. Okay, you put on the headset, and you have these kind of glowing hands, and it says
Yeah.
the game's name, and then you say start, and then it's just a dark room, and like a light turns on in the distance, like
Okay.
down, and there's a book on the ground, and you like teleport over to it.
Okay.
You don't want to walk in VR; you get nauseous. You teleport over to it, and you like reach down with your like ghostly hand, and you
Right.
pick up the book, and you open it up, and it's a grimoire. You know what a grimoire is?
The grimoire sounds like a specific type of book with magic in it?
Exactly. It's a
Okay.
spell book. Okay. And you open up to the first page and it has a spell. And the spell says, say the word luminos and move your
Right.
finger in a circle. So you say luminos and you move your finger in a circle and it casts the spell luminos, which like shoots some light for
Makes
a while.
light, yeah.
Or whatever. And then it says, alternative to luminos, do it above your head. And you find out that if you do luminos above your head, it creates like this light over you. Oh, now you have luminos. And now you've learned that spell. And now the spell book is like, and you can go to the next spell.
Okay.
And you learn the next spell, right? And you actually and the spells get more and more complex. What you have to say, the cadence of how you say it, what you have to do and draw. Maybe you have to go collect materials from the environment and pull them in to make the spell. Like you need some, snake blood or something, or I don't know. Maybe you don't want to use blood because it's kind of creepy, but maybe you need some amethyst or you need some emeralds or
Always
something.
need some amethyst,
or whatever. And then you have to, do, and if you don't say it right, the spell fails.
It won't work.
And if you do it right, the spell works.
Okay.
So you are actually doing magic.
You're in a sandbox environment where your task is to get better at doing magic spell by spell.
Yeah. And then you can then interact with other wizards. So you could
other wizards being real people.
Yeah, other real people.
Okay.
I mean, it could start with it kind of AI dummies that you can sort of fight
of course.
with. But then you could actually do wizard battles. Real wizard battle. I mean, this isn't like, I press the X button and I shoot a fireball. It's like, if you want to shoot a fireball, you need to build up to level 5. It's really hard. It takes 200 hours to get up to being good enough. And then you have to memorize a 16-line poem of nonsense words and, have the right material. like it'd be like real magic. Like
Wait,
truly.
You say real wizard battles and you have a look in your eye. And I imagine in reality, you would have to tell your girlfriend or significant other, you'd be like, honey, excuse me, I'm going to go in for a couple hours. I got some real wizard battles I got to have. And then you just drop your your VR visor and they're like, that is the dorkiest.
But then they listen at the door and they hear you saying, and it like shoots.
And then by the time you're done, they are packed a bag and they are gone.
They left. But you know what? The people who are going to play this, we don't have girlfriends.
Okay.
Because wizard, magic. I think what you could do is you could create what I think everyone wants. Everyone who cares about fantasy and magic, like me, I love fantasy and magic stuff. We want to feel that magic power, right? And in VR, it could feel like you are actually casting the spell because you would say it. And then you would move, you'd do spell casting.
Yeah.
And you could add other magic to it. Well, I'll explain more, but anyways.
I like it. It's fun. My one thing that I would throw in to change it is if I could have a setting to change it from learning magic and gibberish words to, if I could cross this with Duolingo and change it to learning. So
Spanish.
To some other language. Yeah. So like maybe I'm practicing Japanese. So if I want to turn on the lights in the room, I have to learn how to say it in Japanese.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And then it comes on. I could do magic too, but maybe my focus is Mandarin this month. So I'm going to learn how to do all these. Great. I want to eat an apple in Mandarin or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's my dorky level where I would be like, okay, now I'm hooked. But I would do the magic thing too. I would do it.
Yeah.
Do you do much VR? Have you done much VR?
Not a ton.
I know, like you were saying, some people get that seasick feeling. I don't. I don't get seasick on boats. I also, with the VR thing, I don't get nauseous. Like I could do that for a long time. So I'm blessed with not having that, what
I've read is if you traverse. So if the camera moves fluidly, linearly in the VR space, but you're sitting still, then your brain is like something's wrong and you get nauseous. But if you are in a game, what they ought to do, and which really I don't know why Facebook would even allow games to be made that aren't this way. They should just only teleport, because when you teleport, you're just jumping and there is no like movement in the VR space, and then your inner ear is like, you're not moving. because you're teleporting. It's
See,
like a trick.
Because some of the ones I've done, it is like I don't have a rig myself, so it's whatever I can load on my phone and then put on the thing that you strap to your head. And sometimes you can put like a little controller.
Wow.
But most of them are like visual experience. So like you're on a track going through a roller coaster.
Super nauseous.
Or you're,
doesn't that make you nauseous?
No, not at all.
Whoa,
I like
you are like I think you're like an X-Man. You're like a minor X-Man.
Whatever that
you just don't
part
get
of my
nauseous from
brain.
VR.
Yeah, but I like that. Or like going through a solar system on like a sort of a track, and you can look around and see stars and stuff.
I get so nauseous from that. I get so nauseous from that.
Oh, okay.
When I played a game that was like that. All the major games that are like mass appeal games, they are you stand still or you teleport, hands down. There is one called Cliffhanger or what is something where you rock climb. That one I think you don't get nauseous because as you're moving through space, your hands are very important in the game. Like you see your hands in space in front of you, and you reach and then you pull, and then that traverses you. And I think because you're seeing your hand and you're pulling yourself, and then you're going up vertically only, not forward and back.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't feel like it's traversing, and doesn't get that nausea. But so most things though are teleportation, or Beat Sabers, which is like the absolute most popular game. You just stand there and you have lightsabers and you smash.
Yeah, we went to a hotel that had a game room, and my daughter did that, and she had a good time with it. Yeah,
Beat Sabers is awesome. I mean, I think VR is great. But I played one game because I do like this wizard sort of magic stuff. So I played one game that was like you're a wizard. But that was the same. It was just like, you press X on the controller,
right,
and you shoot a fireball.
But the technology can, now you're talking right. You're right. It can recognize speech. It can wait for your it can recognize gestures, emotions, and that sort of stuff. So combine those things, and you have casting spells.
You can
know
cast
what I mean?
Actual spells.
If you can move your hands and say a thing,
and you could have a wand on one side, and you could
that's the merchandise, right? You have a wand a Bluetooth wand that connects to whatever your app is.
Right. So then it's just so crazy. So then I would even, because today, the world today is made of creators, right? So like Minecraft is about creating things. So I would not make this a closed-ended game where it's just whatever the game developers make. I would turn it inside out and say anybody can code up their own spells.
Oh no.
And add them, right? And then there would be like a marketplace of spells that people could go and use the different spell levels.
You would definitely need a team of moderators for when users are making their own spells to be like, this spell you just say boobs 5 times and it works. You're just like, okay, you can't have that be a part of our spell.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure in Minecraft, if you just made a giant genitalia in Minecraft, it would be like, that's not allowed.
I'm thinking there are other areas that would be worse.
Sure. There's a my example, but But I mean, I'm just saying that's the problem with any creative thing, and they've all solved that. So we just solved, that's an easy problem.
That would be really fun.
But now they could open it up, and now so people could be like, oh, I want to do a thing where I, whatever.
Or you download creators spell pack. You're like,
right.
Oh, this creator is really good at, she makes really awesome spells or whatever. Right. So if I download like 7 spells from her, like these are cool.
And you could create like different types of magic. So someone would be like, I create a runic spell kit. And you can like learn all the runes that I create, that I invented, that all do different things, like a fire rune that if you put it on something, now that has like flame properties, and and so you make it as open-ended as possible and allow creators to come in and make their own spells, and then have those spells proliferate around. And now when you're fighting someone, you can be like, oh well, I have my like runic magic, and I like can destroy. I'm so good with runic magic. And then they, they're using this other kind of magic or whatever. Like
the Magic the Gathering or those types of card games where everyone has a deck of different
color or different
makeup, but it's kind of from the same.
It's
from the same like group of cards or something.
Right. So trying to create more. But I think the real thing that, I mean, I don't know exactly how to go. Okay, one thing I'm certain of, which is if you put on your headset, you do an exact, you hold your wand or you do an exact motion and you draw a certain thing, and then you say the right words and it makes like a fireball shoot out and hit something in the distance. That's cool.
Yeah.
So then where you go with that in order to actually gamify it is sort of the challenge. The classic video game thing I learned this from some video game designers that I knew in Madison. They're called Per Blue. A little shout out to Per Blue if you guys want to play their games.
Okay.
But they were game designer people, and I just hung out with them and learned a lot about game design from them. And I guess the main thing with game design is what's called flow and Fiero.
Flow and Fiero?
Flow and Fiero.
Okay.
Okay, so flow is like a flow state. And that's kind of like when you're running through and you're like grinding in a game, like you're killing bad guys, you're getting experience points, and you're kind of, you're just doing whatever you need to do.
You're not noticing the time passing.
Yeah,
you're just in flow state.
Yeah. And then Fiero is the Italian word for like success or like a goal, like achievement.
Oh.
Fiero is like achievement.
Okay.
So, but they use the Italian word because it's kind of like goal. Like you want people to really be like, oh yeah,
Fiero.
Yeah, and that's like when you're going and you're grinding, and then you like level up, and your character has like all these like stars wind around them, and they kind of jump up, and a light shoots up from the ground, and it's like level 2, and you're like,
and you're
Fiero.
saying that knocks you out of flow state, but in a good way because you're like you're too jazzed to be in a flow state.
Bumps you up to like, oh yeah, and then you're like now back to flow.
Check all my new things.
Flow. Then Fiero. Flow. So you can think of it as like if you're playing like one of these like first person shooter games, it's like shoot, kill, run around, sneak, shoot, kill. Okay, and then it's like new gun, cool, and then it's like level updated. Okay, next thing, got to the end. Oh, I found the item I'm supposed to collect. Okay, now I gotta move on to that. Or the story continued. I got more of the story. You know? That's like all Fiero or finding objects. People love variable reward. They love having like a treasure box that then has random stuff in it. Mm-hmm. That's all Fiero. It's punctuating the flow. So anyways, I don't know how you'd use like flow and Fiero to turn like, okay, I can cast spells. I'm a wizard. I can cast spells. You could just make it into like a game, like an RPG game where you're a wizard. Well,
I was going to say
to fight bad guys as you go, you use the spells that are from your grimoire.
Yeah.
But I think, it could be just a standard like campaign mode, multiplayer versus mode.
Yeah.
And the versus mode is like a wizard battle. You could even do like 5-on-5 wizard battle. That'd be so cool. And different wizards could be like, I'm a healing wizard. I'm a water wizard, fire wizard. And there could be all these different sort of team combinations that get created.
It would be cool if you could have people like actually, players meet up and then teach each other the spells that they've got, and then that levels you up because they're like, I know these things.
You have to teach people.
Coding the back end to make it all possible would be a continual updating process because people would be developing new things that they'd want to do.
Yeah, but if you have people paying $20 a month subscription,
totally.
Dude, it would be, you could get, tons
it sounds to me more interesting. I never was a World of Warcraft person or like that, because that sounded like I have too many tasks to do.
I know
that are like work, and I'm like, that's work. And
that.
Some people get into it, and it never appealed to me. But like this thing where I'm learning spells and like kind of leveling up my spells, there's no analog to that in my daily life, right? Like it's not like, well, I'm just learning spells here instead of learning spells in the real world. That's different,
Yeah. So when I do a project, I like to have what's called a BHAG.
What?
A BHAG. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's a good way to get really motivated, right? Because if you're just I want my thing to not fail, like it's just a crappy goal. But if you're like, I want to have lunch with President Obama, that's the goal of this, or something, something just totally crazy.
Right.
But maybe you're doing something that could get you that feasibly someday. What you're doing could achieve that. Then you keep that in mind. It's a good way to visualize.
Nice.
Okay. So here's my big, hairy, audacious goal for this video game. So when you play World of Warcraft too much, you engage with things by clicking on them, right? So if I see something I want to go talk to them, I click on it and you go over to it. If you play World of Warcraft too much, which I did years ago, you actually go around your real life, and when you see something, you kind of like your brain, like you kind of reach out to click on them.
Okay.
And then you realize you've played too much World of Warcraft.
I feel like I might have experienced this like at the beginning of the pandemic when I dove into Fortnite or something, and I'm like driving around going like, where are all the chests, all the golden chests that I can open up and get things out of?
Exactly. So I want it to be that someone does so much wizards that they like wake
They
up.
lose their grip on reality.
Well, yeah, they essentially like Don Quixote. Their brains get baked, and they turn. They wake up in the middle of the night, and they put their hand up and they go luminos, and it's like, damn it, I'm not in the game. I don't have my magical powers because I'm not. I gotta go back. I gotta put the VR on because I want the magical powers. Oh man,
you're talking about an unhealthy addiction that we foster as people.
Is it unhealthy or is it good? To be like wrapped up in a fantastical world, where then when you come back to the real world, you feel the difference.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's good.
We're on our way to Ready Player Oneville. This is the first step.
This is good, right?
And
there's a quixotic part. Don Quixote, right?
I don't know him, but I've heard, yes.
You have a parasocial relationship with Don Quixote.
Of course.
Of course, don't we all?
Don't you dare insult Don
But
Quixote.
It's how it starts. Is he
bakes
his brains, his sesos. He bakes his brains with the tales of caballeria, the tales of knighthood, right? And that makes him crazy. But it also makes him live like a rich, imaginary life, So it's like, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Is that the takeaway from Don Quixote? We should all be like Don Quixote.
That's what he says on his deathbed in part 2 of Don Quixote at the end. He said, he says, it's been far, far better. He kind of comes to his senses a little bit at the end. And then he says, it's been far, far better life to live with my illusions than to live without them.
And there's not like an epilogue where he's a ghost and he's like, I was wrong.
I shouldn't have done that.
I was all wrong.
He really gets beat up. I mean, that's how he dies, actually, is because he just gets beat to hell. He gets beat up and falls down and dehydrated, and he just completely goes to pieces.
Cool dude.
But I don't think that's going to happen for our people. But so then there we go. So then that's the next thing. So we start this video game. People become wildly successful. People love being wizards.
Yes.
And then we write another Don Quixote. We call it Don Quixote. And it's a man who plays his video game so much that it bakes his brains, and he decides that he is a wizard, and he walks outside and decides now he begins his life as a wizard. I was thinking Harry Potter, if they wanted to make a ton of money, they could do this. So the whole thing could be Harry Potter themed.
Right. Yeah, that is what I mean when you started
Hogwarts,
out. That's the dominant magic culture of pop culture that comes to mind is like, oh, you're doing a Harry Potter thing. But I mean, magic is obviously bigger and came around before Harry Potter. It could be, yeah.
I was thinking you could do if the Harry Potter people, I'm sure it's some kind of franchise, right? If those people did this, that'd be cool. But it also could just be anybody,
right?
It could just be anybody.
If you're doing it with the Harry Potter people, they are going to want their cut. Yeah. And if you do it without them, you're not going to...
Probably without is better, actually, because then you can do all different kinds of magic, and you don't have to keep everything limited to just like fucking Harry Potter.
Well,
Harry
and
Potter
also
stuff.
People won't be like, that's not exactly how it is in book 7, page 314.
No, I would just do it fresh. I would just look at like Dungeons and Dragons, loosely Dungeons and Dragons based.
Magic.
Just do it magic.
Sure.
Yeah. Not even, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons you couldn't do either. It's not open source. But, just basically that generic magic idea. People would like that.
Yeah, some generic idea of gathering the magic in some point. Oh man, that one's taken too. All right, never mind then.
Could you do this for other things? Not really.
What do you mean? I mean,
that's what it basically.
Other things?
Well, I'm just saying when this is basically
like learning skills.
So the idea here
you could do it for learning skills.
It's a simulator. So this is what the idea is. It's a magic simulator.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have plane flight simulators where you actually, it's like the simulation of flying a real plane.
Truck driving simulators. They have all
goat
sorts of
simulator.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if we have a goat simulator, we really should have a mage simulator. Right? I mean, seriously.
I'm not arguing.
Goat simulator. Yeah. There's also a race car games are just race car simulators.
At the end of the goat simulator, you actually get caught and sacrificed by the mage simulator. They're like, we need you for one of our more involved rituals. Sorry.
Probably the right, the Christian right would be like, we never don't use this game. That would be great.
Sacrificing goats is straight up in the Bible. That's
true.
They should not.
No, but I'm just saying what we should do is find some people who would be against it and then publicize that, because that would be a great advertisement for it. Because then people are like, ooh, I'm going to use this.
Last night,
satanic.
I'm talking in a quieter voice because my daughter's in the other room. But last night we started watching Jurassic Park, and we haven't gotten to the part where the goat gets chomped. So
the greatest of all time.
I'm looking for that. Yes, of course, it was
the greatest of all time.
They found the greatest of all time, tied him to a
stake. The lawyer in the.
No, it was
that's
like
the part that freaked me out.
That's when they were like feeding the T-Rex. They were like,
I know, but the lawyer gets eaten to the T-Rex. fed to the T-Rex.
I mean,
I'm not scared of the goat.
a lot of people get fed to the T-Rex. That's what happens.
True.
That's Jurassic Park.
It should be called.
Spoiler alert:
fed to
dinosaurs
the T-Rex.
eat people.
You know the secret to Jurassic Park?
What?
It's filmed like a horror movie, but it's an action movie.
Well, Spielberg, I mean, he's using his Jaws tricks just in a family.
This is why
more family friendly.
All the subsequent Jurassic Parks are filmed as action movies with dinosaurs, and that's why they suck compared to the first one, because they're not filmed as horror movies.
Well, it was so funny to start the first one and like they're driving around in these cars that say Jurassic Park, and my daughter's like, why do they say the name of the movie on like what, why does this movie know about itself? And
That's
I'm like,
funny.
You gotta check it out.
Meta.
Gotta wait.
Meta.
But she has no opening concept of the film, so it's gonna be fun.
Cool. That is cool.
I like doing this with movies that are, like 30
Real
years old
classics,
at this point now.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. It makes me feel so old.
93.
To think that Jurassic Park is 30 years old
this year.
Me feel old.
Sorry.
I really wish they would make a new Jurassic Park that actually...
They do that every couple of years.
No, but I wish they would actually do a new Jurassic Park. Like, film it like a horror movie, which is what it's supposed to be.
Put in the actual dinosaurs.
Yeah, get real dinosaurs.
Get real paleontologists and have them really get eaten.
Get eaten by dinosaurs. Come on. Mage Simulator. I think a Mage Simulator would be one of the top games. I think it would be like Beat Sabers. It would. I think people would really love it.
I would prefer that to Beat Saber. I mean, if I don't forget my spells in between uses, and so I'm still able to do the things. And in real world, although I guess I would eventually forget some.
How do you create a campaign mode though? Because so much campaign mode is like traversing. You have to avoid traversing, or people get nauseous. Except for you, of course. X-Men over here doesn't get nauseous.
Give me all the traversing.
Everyone else gets nauseous when you traverse in VR. So, especially adults.
Maybe if you're a magician, teleporting is probably one of the first things you learn, and then you solve that part of the game and you go from here to there or whatever.
Dude, the skins, people would pay so much for the skins because you want to skin your mage to look really cool.
Although the problem I have,
you can't see yourself.
Exactly. That's like the problem in Fortnite where they're like, look at this cool thing. And I'm like, I'm literally always staring at the back of my head. I don't know.
That's true. That's weird.
It's only for other people.
That's true. That's so weird. It's like pronouns. But why would you? I guess skins. I don't know. Maybe it could just be escalating battles. So it could just be like your first level 1 is you just battle something, and then it's a story, because you don't get nauseous if you just watch a story. So then it's a story, and then you battle someone else, and then it's more of a story, and you battle someone else. You could do like puzzle. Maybe it's a puzzler in between. That could be the campaign. So it's like you puzzle and learn and upgrade your magic, and once you've puzzled out and learned your magic enough, you unlock the next boss, and then you fight that boss, and you keep doing that up and up and up and up.
Well, and if you start in a completely black, like non-environment, and you have to build it a little piece at a time, maybe you have to like build the pieces and make a shelter and make like a way to get food and make a way to like have a place to sleep and like build these things one by one, like you would if you were like stuck on a island for Survivor or something. You had to build all the things,
right? Yeah, and you could make a little bit. You could start it off where it's like, you're a student at a magic school, or you could start off where you're like a wizard who's been banished to a tower, and you're just in this tower, or you could just be in this void kind of space, which I think is cool to do magic in, like a void space that feels like a sandbox.
Totally.
Dragon Ball Z releases video games, I guess, every couple of years, and they released a new one 2 years ago, 2020. They released one, and I watched a playthrough. I was like, oh, maybe I want to play this. Dragon Ball Z is kind of cool. And I thought, maybe I'll play with this. And I looked at it and I was like, it's basically just you fight people, and it's just escalating fights. And in between the fights, you just like gather items and whatever.
Sure.
So you could basically model it almost entirely on that game.
Well, like you were saying, I'm not a video game guy, but like I'm a huge comic book nerd. I like that stuff. And so the closest I've gotten to like buying a PlayStation or something like that is like, when they're like, oh, the Spider-Man game.
The Spider-Man game is good.
Exactly. That's what everyone says. It is. The story's good. And also, you swing around being Spider-Man, which rules. And I'm like, that is about as close as you could get me. And that's what this kind of appeal sounds like, which is like, jump in, put your visor on, and just you become the magician.
Yeah.
You become the wizard. And
we prefer wizard or mage to magician.
You
magician is a derogatory. No, those are all derogatory terms.
The lying trickster.
These are derogatory terms. We're going to edit this.
The magic dork.
This is not politically correct.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Mages magicians.
Well, then I'm never going to use the thing. And they'll never be able to cast a spell on me until they come and they get confused and come in real world and they go like, spell on you. And then
then you'll be like, you don't have your magic here.
Not here, buddy.
It could be like an Assassin's Creed thing where it gets all meta and in the game you're like a mage, but then you like kind of wake up each morning and you're just a guy and you have to like make coffee and you have to like do your life.
No.
And then you
we're back to the
and then you're like, how do I get back to being a friggin' mage? And then, but you're in the game still. And then you figure out how to be a mage again. And then you take off the helmet and you're like, wait a second, where am I?
That's already this game. That's already the simulation theory of here.
That's like the Assassin's Creed thing that's so weird, right? Have you ever seen Assassin's Creed? Where you're this assassin in like the Renaissance, Florence, but then actually you're just like a guy like time traveling.
You're sending your
weird
consciousness back or something.
What a weird premise.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the Mage Simulator could be meta like that, where you wake up and you're not a mage in the game, and then you like somehow go back to being a mage, or you find out that that's actually a dark mage created that illusion around you.
Oh boy.
And you have to break out of it by like casting a spell.
See, what are we worried about? We have more story than we know what to do with already.
Yeah, I think this could be a fun game.
All right, we're not hiring anyone. Screw that. We're good.
I think that we've really fleshed it out a lot, actually.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I like this. And again, if I could switch it to Japanese, where I'm also learning my language,
maybe you switch the language.
Then I'm even more in.
Kind of cool. Although I do think it'd be cool to teach people Latin.
That would be fun.
Because then everyone learns Latin.
Look, if I feel like I'm learning a real thing, then
and there could be little like subtitles at the bottom, like luminos is the Greek word for light or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's not. I think fantasia is.
I'm not going to be able to fact check you here.
Fontos.
Whichever way we go.
Fontos is light. Fontos. So we could say Fontos instead of luminos. Anyways, luminos is probably Latin. So
let us know, all you Greek listeners.
Yeah, just log in and send us a little message about your ancient Greek, your favorite ancient Greek word that we said today. Or modern Greek.
We're good.
Yeah,
whatever.
Up to you, Greek heads. Let's do this. Thanks for signing into this Greek podcast.
Greek geeks.
We're the Greek geeks, and we're glad you all logged in to listen to us.
All right,
let's wrap up.
Oh, let's wrap. This is good, Adam. I like this idea actually. I don't know. I would play it. I don't know how to make it, but I would play it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. See you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for listening to that episode of Solutions from the Multiverse.
Yeah, we're back with a little after roll. Hello.
Hey, after roll. Roll that after roll. So basically, we want you to subscribe.
Yeah.
And rate and review. And tell someone, like, take your favorite solution and send it to someone who you think would like blow their mind to hear it.
Yeah, we love making the show. We're proud of it, and we're excited. We want other people to show. We know that the main way people find podcasts is word of mouth. I know that's true for me. I listen to my friends who also listen to podcasts tell me about ones, and I go, okay, I'm cluing into that. So we want to be part of that chain.
So thanks for being a part of Solutions.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.